Good morning, everyone. Just a request, if you would please switch your phones onto silent so that it doesn't go off while we're in the middle of our keynote speech and the panel. Thank you so much for just taking a second to check that. So welcome to World Population Day. My name is Viravaidya. I'm the Communications Advisor for the UN Population Fund Office for Asia and the Pacific. And we are holding this amazing event. I think it will be absolutely amazing with our Thailand country office. We have a jam-packed 2 hours, and we're already running a little bit late. But I'd like to welcome our Facebook Live audience as well. I think it's going up by the second as we speak, hopefully. And we will be taking questions from them at some point as well further into the show. But for now, I would like to welcome you all, and I would like to welcome our regional director, Yoriko Yasukawa. Yoriko.
Sawadika. Good morning. Mechai Viravaidya, Chairperson of the Population and Community Development Association. Dr. Bunyarit Sukrat, Deputy Director of the Bureau of Reproductive Health at the Ministry of Public Health of Thailand. Ms. Jinangun Rojananan, Senior Advisor in Policy and Planning, Office of the National Economic and Social Development Board of Thailand. Ambassadors of Belgium, Canada, Norway and Sweden to Thailand, colleagues from the Diplomatic Corps, colleagues from our sister UN agencies, our civil society partners, members of the media. The theme of this year's World Population Day is family planning, empowering people, developing nations. It coincides with the start of the second Family Planning 2020 Summit in London, which should be starting a few hours from now. 5 years after the initiative was launched for 69 of the world's poorest countries, in partnership with UNFPA and many others. Policymakers, advocates, donors will gather to renew their commitments to enable 120 million more women and girls to access and use contraceptives by the year 2020. For UNFPA, this is a crucial part of our mission to ensure universal access to sexual and reproductive health services. That includes the provision of contraceptives, pregnancy care, and care by trained health professionals at childbirth. Ensuring access to these services for all women and girls is essential for preventing the unnecessary deaths of women and girls and also newborn babies. The Asia-Pacific region has made a lot of progress in expanding family planning over the past decades. The use of modern contraceptive methods has increased from 55% to 63% over roughly 25 years. This has contributed also to the reduction of deaths of women and girls due to pregnancy and childbirth by more than half over the past 15 years. These are really great achievements, and it's owed to collective efforts by governments, by donors, international organizations, activists, community organizations, and women themselves who have come together to demand their right to family planning services. But there's still a lot of work yet to be done. In our region, almost 85,000 women die each year due to reasons related to pregnancy and childbirth. 84 million women in the Asia-Pacific region lack access to modern contraceptives. Women living in poverty, in remote rural areas, and those of ethnic and religious minorities, indigenous communities, migrant women, sex workers, disabled women, those living with HIV and AIDS, LGBT people, face especially difficult barriers and discrimination. The situation is aggravated by legal, political, and socioeconomic and cultural restrictions to the rights of women and girls, including high levels of violence against women and girls at the hands of their intimate partners, and child marriage. Almost half of women currently 20 to 24 years old in South Asia were married off as children. That's over 35 million girls. Governments in the Asia-Pacific region spend on average, or the East Asia and Pacific region of our part of the world spend an average of 2.9% of GDP in health. And those in South Asia spend only 1.4%. As compared to 7.7% in the wealthy countries and the global average of 6%. So governments and political and social leaders in Asia-Pacific really need to invest much more resources and effort in improving access to family planning and combating violence and harmful practices against women and girls. And I would like to take this opportunity, because of this, to salute the countries that have launched the initiative She Decides, to renew the world's commitment to the right of women and girls to decide about their bodies and about their lives. Those countries are Sweden, Finland, Netherlands, Belgium, Denmark, Norway, and Canada. And this has really given us, those of us who work for this cause, a big boost, and we want to thank you for that. Thailand also gives us a positive example in its very successful family planning program, in which Kun Mechai was a leader. Its universal health coverage system and its adolescent pregnancy law, which mandates youth-friendly sexual and reproductive health services and comprehensive sexuality education in all the schools. Expanding access to family planning is not only about improving the health of women and girls. As our late executive director, Dr. Babatunde, who passed away just a little more than a month ago, used to say, it's about empowering and liberating women and girls, so that they can make their own choices about their bodies and about their lives. Most importantly, about whether and when and how many children to have. Women and girls exercising that right and that freedom makes life better not only for them, but also for their families, their communities, and for societies at large. When women and girls are able to fully develop and exercise their capacity as people and as citizens, it benefits the economy. It helps to build more equal and democratic and inclusive societies. And that empowerment has to start in that most intimate and sensitive part of our lives that has to do with sharing our bodies and our hearts with others. What having access to family planning does is to give us security and dignity and freedom in our sexual and reproductive lives, so that sex and pregnancy and childbirth are about love and joy rather than fear and violence. That is so crucial to our happiness as individuals and also as couples, as families. It's central to achieving that objective set out in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development of ensuring a life of dignity for all people, leaving no one behind. Today, as part of our commemoration of World Population Day, our Asia-Pacific Regional Office and our Thailand Country Office would also like to honor someone who has been a revolutionary leader and pioneer in the effort to expand family planning, in Thailand as well as globally. Kun Mechai Viravaidya, in the 1970s, actually you said the late 1960s, when maternal mortality hovered around 230 per 100,000 live births, which is 9 times what it is now, Kun Mechai began a unique and innovative campaign to make contraceptives, particularly condoms, accessible to all Thais. Accessible both in terms of availability physically, but also in terms of taking away the stigma of using it and talking about it. Kun Mechai's work has saved millions of lives by helping women to avoid unwanted pregnancies and also helping to prevent HIV and AIDS. But Kun Mechai's work has not only been about saving lives, it's been about empowering people, especially women, to claim their right and freedom to decide their own destiny. It has also been about bringing people together around a common cause in a joyous and fun way. Here is a short film produced by the BBC recently on Kun Mechai's life and work. So please let's watch.
This is free condom for you. Mechai now means condom since 1973. I want to make contraceptives as accessible as possible, and the idea was that if family planning was to succeed, then contraceptives have to be as easily found as vegetables and villages. So we made the condom visible and said, look, the condom is clean if your mind is not dirty.
As a Thai, growing up in Thailand, everyone knew who the Mechai was. We knew him as basically the condom king.
People are normally embarrassed when you talk about sex, generally around the world. But if you can bring in humor to it, when they laugh, they forget about the embarrassment.
And we have many, many uses of the condom. As you can see, you can of course put coins and change into here, Coca-Cola if you like, and of course you can use it as a balloon for young children.
So the condom again came to the fore from birth control to be death control.
And that was largely in part to the initiatives and leadership of Mechai.
HIV has come down immensely in Thailand, new infections, etc. But while the numbers are low, the types of people getting it have changed to be the younger generation. So that's what we have to address. In earlier days, I was the rooster in fighting HIV, but today I'm just a feather duster. I'm trying to save life, I'm trying to save opportunities, save futures, and we must deem it a privilege if we could work in something that makes the world a better place.
So, Mechai, on behalf of the UNFPA Asia-Pacific Regional Office and the Thailand Country Office, thank you for your remarkable contributions to the cause of family planning and human rights, and especially women's and girls' rights. So please, yes. Is this okay?
Thank you very much indeed, Ms. Yusukawa, and ambassadors, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. And I must say that this is like my birthday. I've been working in family planning for about 50 years. And in fact, the happiness in my life in terms of work has been because of family planning. So to me, every day is Population Day, or call it Family Planning Day. And I brought with me the new generation. They're at the back. They are students from year 7 to year 11, who are my safe sex teachers who go around school. And before I begin, I would like to at least let you see the next generation, and we hope with the government we will have all student councils in all schools in Thailand trained to help explain, because young people are so much better at explaining about sex than older people. So I'd like them to come and say hello to you at the front. เชิญนักเรียนมาข้างหน้าหน่อยครับ And I think they're coming down the middle. And later on, they will be giving out condoms. And after they're finished, they will walk around the hotel giving out condoms to all the hotel guests. ยืนข้างบนให้เห็นหน่อยครับยืนข้างบน They've made these hats themselves, and they also make mannequins and so on. And so they are not at all embarrassed by contraceptives, the condom. They say that sex is like a fire. You can light a candle with it, incense sticks with it, a stove to cook food in, or to burn your house down and burn yourself. So be careful. Learn it properly. That's why we have outside the unsafe Russian roulette outside, to see that there's 36 diseases you can get very, very easily if you're not careful. So kids are beginning to learn. We're teaching them in primary school, also in secondary school, and these students are also going to university, and then or to military recruits. So they're facing all sorts of people. They're not at all embarrassed by it. As you probably see, you can ask them about condoms later on. So I'd like to say that this is the next generation, and we will hold it that every day, every school that we work with must have a World Population Day. Thank you. Okay. They come from many, many parts of the country, and you'll hear about the school because family planning has led us to that. So again, thank you very much for this honor to be with you, and very, very grateful for the award that you have kindly offered. It belongs to so many people, but just my hands will take it and then pass it on to everybody else. So my talk today that I've been asked to reveal is what I call 4 journeys to improve the quality of life. It starts off with one thing and ends up with another, but it's all linked to family planning. 44 years ago, our development endeavors in rural Thailand. This is what the subject is about. It all began with family planning. I was at the NESDB, and we tried very hard to convince the government that we had a population problem, 7 kids per family, 3.3% population growth. It would double in 25 years. But the government said we wanted to be a superpower, so that have another national seminar, have another one, 6 altogether. So by that time, I felt that the government couldn't do everything that we wanted. I used to think we could, but then I realized we couldn't. So I stepped out and started a movement from the outside, together with the Ministry of Health, who were also constrained by government policy. Eventually, after 6 years, they had a population policy, but no budget. So that was a very clear signal that we have to do it from the outside. So the 4 journeys that, there are several more, but these are the major ones. The 4 journeys, the first one is to reduce births. You can guess what that's about. Second one was to reduce deaths. Third, to reduce poverty. And fourth, to reduce ignorance. And of course, very simple guiding principles. One is think outside the box. There's not enough room inside the box. Empower the poor, empower the people you're working with that you're trying to help, which are mostly the poor. And the third one is take no as a question. I've always taken no as a question rather than an answer, and some governments don't like it very much. And the other one is ensure sustainability. So what we started 44 years ago in family planning, we're still doing today, but we're changing the style of cooking. Instead of reducing births, we're trying to reduce deaths and disease and early pregnancy. So the first journey was reducing birth. And this was the situation back 44 years ago. 7 children per family, population growth rate of 3.3%, which of course was not sustainable and All the researchers, together with the World Bank and other universities, confirmed that, but it didn't mean very much to the government. So we decided to come outside. What we did was, we did go do it all through the Ministry of Health. We worked very closely with the Ministry of Health. But the first one we did was that who gets in touch with more people, and that's the teachers. So we had over 5 years trained 320,000 rural school teachers to understand about family planning, to try to introduce it into their classes. For instance, they had condom blowing championships for the teachers, condom blowing championships for the students. We have a snakes and ladders game where you land on family planning. Anything negative, you come back. Anything positive, you go forward. Such as, mother takes the pill every night. Very good mother, move ahead 6. Uncle buys condom. Very good uncle, move ahead 3. Uncle gets drunk, doesn't use condom. Come back, start again. And then we came up with a new alphabet, whereby in Thai, where would be B for birth, C for condom, I for IUD, V for vasectomy, F for family planning. And then we also had a song. It would be equivalent to Jingle Bells in the West. But this is a song used to be sung by Thai children, but not today. In Thai, it used to be called Jing Chok, but we changed it to be Luk Dok, meaning so many children. And that was taught to all the children. And in the song, it had every contraceptive method. So even 9-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 7-year-olds knew every contraceptive method from the so-called Jingle Bell song. And then condom relay races. For them to touch condom, to say it's harmless, it's from a rubber tree. If you're embarrassed by the condom, you must be more embarrassed by the tennis ball. There's more rubber in it. So getting them involved in it, and parents did not object. And then we found out very clearly that the women wanted to practice family planning, and the Ministry of Health obliged, when the policy was passed, that but the doctor had to prescribe the pill. We had one doctor per 110,000 women in those days to do everything, including family planning. No way. So it's a little bit like other things. In reality, it didn't work. So the Ministry of Health came up with a very, very good program of getting nurses and midwives to be trained with a checklist that if you have these and these conditions, don't take the pill, go and consult and get an IUD or something else, or condoms. But that covered 20% of the villages, and that was the end of the line. No more health personnel. We could have said, well, we've done a good job. But we said, no, that's not enough. We wanted to cover the other 80% of the villages. So we proposed a program to the National Family Planning Board and the Ministry of Health, and they eventually agreed that we could introduce a community-based family planning program whereby the villages selected the people they wanted to prescribe pills, condoms, and information, and almost everyone was a local shopkeeper and the wife and husband team. They knew how to serve customers. And you can see the yellow sign that says Village Family Planning Center, get your pills and condoms, or consult for IUDs and so on at the Ministry of Health Hospital. And below in red is Coca-Cola. So 44 years ago, we were much bigger than Coca-Cola in the villages. But today, I think they're quite a bit bigger than us. Hairdressers were perfect because you're sitting duck there to set. You're sitting there and she can say family planning is very good and so on. The other people in the area also. And she came up with a very good idea that if you take the pill from me, I give you 10% discount on your hairdo. See, all these things came in. And obviously I'm sure you've gotten to the message that everyone needs to be involved in any development endeavor. It's not ministry by ministry. If I'm not getting any advertisement fee for this, but it should be like a 7-Eleven, but with a better heart than a typical 7-Eleven. Share more. But it should comprise everything. It should be integrated. Why did you have to go to 5, 6, 7, 8 places when one would do? So an integrated approach. And this is what we try to do. In the family planning floating market, so wherever you have food or vegetables, or here crabs and bananas, also contraceptives. Wherever there would be bus stops, terminals, everything. And it was not free. The government gave it out free, but we said you had to pay either 5 baht or 7 baht. The market price was 15. But if you didn't have money, you could do community service. So nobody was denied. You had to pick up some plastic bags or help some elderly people. You can get the pill. No one was denied, but it was not free because it was something of value. We give it free, you tell them that it's not so valuable. And so they did community service in return. Then the Family Planning Volunteer Network that we started according to the Permanent Secretary of Health, Dr. Vitun Sangsin-Kao, he said, this was the forerunner which the government used to develop its current program, today still running, the Village Health Volunteer. So that was the pioneering work that was carried on and expanded and improved by the Ministry of Health. So all these things were done in conjunction with the Ministry of Health and everybody else, but we just want to show that we were the stubborn people to begin with, to take no as a question. Then the Ministry of Health said, the women are coming forward and having their sterilization when they had enough children, but not enough men. Could you see what you could do? So we did some surveys and we found out that they did not dare to go to hospital because they might not come out. Men didn't go to hospitals often, and when they did, often the condition was so serious that they didn't come out. So other men said, I don't mind vasectomy there. I might not come out. So it turned out to be a mobile van. We did air conditioned with music. You can choose your music at the time. And then we blindfolded you so people could look through the window and see how it's done. Because some people thought you would cut from the throat all the way down to the scrotum. We said, no, it's just a very tiny procedure, so you can see it. And when the person comes down from the bus after the vasectomy, everyone claps, say you're a hero. And then we introduce, this is what we call a millionaire vasectomy at the Lottery Bureau. This is not the Ministry of Health, and we used luncheon tables to show how simple it was. It could be done anywhere, even in a picnic atmosphere. And we had the 52 best doctors, we say the fastest hands in the West, in Thailand, to come and do vasectomy. On that day, we did 1,229 vasectomies, and we went to the Book of Records, Guinness. They said they don't have that category. So maybe there's still time. But the whole point is that everyone was involved. You can see even the Lottery Bureau, and we gave them a lottery ticket as a present. See, if you win, you get $1 million. If you don't win, like everybody else who buys lottery tickets. So again, that was to show that it was quite harmless, and the men began to accept it, to like it. So then we introduced the kangaroo vasectomy on Australian National Day. And we got some wine and some beer from the Australian Embassy. And after the procedure, the doctor had a very small sip, and the customer had a bigger sip. To make sure the doctor had just very few. And another one was also the 4th of July vasectomy festival. It was done at the Imperial Hotel, which used to be diagonally across the ambassador's residence. So while he was having his vin d'honneur, we had our vasectomy festival. Americans to the front of the line first. Other Thais and others could join in. And this is a picture of a fellow called Willie Bohm, who worked for USAID, had his vasectomy there. But the hotel was very kind. They gave us the ballroom, very appropriate room for it. And they said you could also have an American drink, either a beer or a Coca-Cola or Pepsi-Cola, or a hot dog or hamburger. And I felt that the hot dog was more symbolic. So there's, and there was Willie Bohm, half-eaten hamburger. And the American press were very, very interested and said, why did you do this? They didn't ask for it. I said, you do a lot of stuff that people didn't ask for. So we're just getting our own back. Just to say it's for everybody. It's not just for Thai, it's for Americans, for Swedes, for everybody. We had a Danish guy who came over especially to have a vasectomy with us. And then we had Father's Day vasectomy. We said to reduce your chance of your inheritance becoming very small, bring father for vasectomy. And we had a playground, so there's the son and daughter and mother is there and father after his vasectomy. Again, we kept it in the family to prove to everyone it was a very simple procedure. What was interesting after all of this is that 80% of all of Bangkok's population that had vasectomies had it with us because we were very low-key, very friendly, no hospital, no serious. The doctors didn't look like doctors. And then for the whole country, we didn't have many clinics. All the statistics we sent to the Ministry of Health, 30% of the entire country had their vasectomy with us because they felt it was easy. So I think that anything to do with health and other issues, make it low-key and make it fun. And this is what we try to do. And then we introduced our non-pregnancy agricultural credit, the equivalent of a microcredit program. And the villagers said that who should follow? should be able to borrow. And they said, only women who practice family planning. We don't have enough money for everyone. If you're pregnant, take care of your baby. If you're not pregnant, you can take care of a pig. So you get 2 pigs to raise at a time, twice a year, if you're not pregnant for the first year. 4 pigs to raise at a time, not pregnant for the second year. 6 pigs to raise at a time when you're not pregnant for the third year, and we help to form a cooperative for you if you're not pregnant for 4 years. And the women say, wow, we make a lot of money when we're not pregnant. That's the message. It's got to be linked to some gain. You can't just say family planning is good because the government says so or the UN says so. It's good for you. They've got to understand, they've got to feel that it's good. So we've got to keep on going. And this is what happened. It's known everybody helped. Ministry of Health played a very, very important role. Everybody else also. It came down from 7 children to 1.5. I don't know how you have 1.5 child, but it's the statistics, it's under 2. And the population growth rate from 3.3 came down to 0.4. Today I am accused of having caused this problem of not enough young people and too many old people like myself. And I said, look, give me a chance. I'm the accused. First, expand the working age of people. I've gone beyond retirement of government officials by 17 years. If I can do it, others can do it. Increase their productivity, let them work longer, enjoy life more too. That's number one. Second one, get people with disabilities to work more, produce more. There's so much that we can do. The third one, if you want more, don't force the people to have it. It's a human right to have the number of children you want, not government policy. Well, we have lots of people waiting to be Thai citizens already. Lots of them. Some are being sent home. Let them stay in Thailand. Just like, take a look around Thailand. You go to any ministry, you go to the Thai cabinet, and look at the faces. We're made from many parts of the world. That's the beauty of Thailand. We must have great acceptance of people that are different. So don't worry about having more children. Please, the government, allow these people to become Thai citizens, like some of your cabinet ministers. And look at me. I'm half Scottish, half Thai, and the Thai side has some Chinese, has some Mon, a whole lot. So real fruit salad. Then, I think this is very, very important. I want people who are involved in family planning or thinking of it to realize that the success, in our case, the success in family planning paved the way for tackling other rural development issues. And the first one that hit us was trying to reduce deaths through HIV. In mid-80s, HIV hit Thailand. And luckily, we had done a lot in family planning with pills and contraceptives and condoms that enable us to at least put up a fight against HIV, and we were ready if we had the correct leadership. Unfortunately, the government reaction at the time was denial. Said this would ruin tourism. So no information allowed whatsoever on public media. And I knew that this was not right because we'd done research with many universities and found and saw that between the year 1990 and the year 2000, we could have between 2 and 4 million HIV infections, and that would be disastrous. It would wipe away all the gain we had achieved, and so we had to do something about it. And so I took this as a question, and the minister in charge, of course, he wasn't blessed with great intelligence at the time, still the same today. He said, no, you're not allowed to. So I felt I and 36, 37 million other people own the country, not the government. They are our employees for 4 years. So we're going to do something about it. So we decided on a plan, and this is what happened. We took no as a question and went to the Commander-in-Chief of the Army. We didn't ask for a coup d'etat, we asked for something else. We asked to help, and we explained to the Commander-in-Chief the number of men who are at military age percentage who were already infected from the north, northeast, and so on. And I said, this is getting very severe. Soon you will have a whole lot of army with people living with HIV. You can prevent this. He said, what can the army do? I said, the military needs to help by lending us 300 radio stations and 2 television networks for us to educate the public. And he agreed. And that day he also called in the head of police, because we want police to also help us on HIV. Not on arresting people, but to help on other things. So this is what we got. We produced a whole lot of materials with the help of Rockefeller Foundation for the materials, and companies did it gratis. So we didn't use much money except for the reproduction. Soon after that, luckily, we had a new Prime Minister, regarded probably the best Prime Minister Thailand's ever had, Kunanan Panyarachun. And he accepted the fact that we had a serious problem, HIV. I was asked to join the government to take care of tourism, broadcasting, and other things, but I said, look, I need a sort of a moonlighting job of HIV. Oh, that's the Ministry of Health. I said, I will help. So I gave him all the information and suggested that he become the chairman of the National AIDS Committee. And with proof of the situation, he accepted. And there was a huge increase in government budget. 40-fold increase in government budget. Every ministry had to educate its own staff first before you could go to the public. Even judges had training in HIV, understanding what it was, because discrimination was getting high. So then it was decided that we would take this as total war, total commitment. And I was also in charge of broadcasting, so I had my day back. So I got all the media to come and provided training and said from now on, do not scare people, tell the truth. It's called HIV, it's not, you're not with AIDS. And to say that you need to prevent HIV through media. So you need to provide messages every hour broadcast for 30 seconds, every hour broadcast. If you ask for free, they give it when they can't sell, nobody's watching, listening. So we say we made it compulsory, every hour broadcast, and we gave them half a minute extra to earn advertising. So there's a win-win situation. So the Thai public got involved by listening and listening all the time. Not only that, we did many, many other things to go with it. We had learned so much from family planning, and we used the experience then to push ahead for HIV. So anyone who's faced with HIV, family planning and HIV prevention go together very, very well. And so we started having lots of training. On the first one is commander every governor of every province was trained at Government House, and I'm standing at the front there explaining to them, and a budget was given to every province to train their people and to provide information all the way down to the villages. And then we also trained policemen, police officers in every station. We also trained monks, not for safe sex purposes, but it probably would be pretty good also, but we didn't do that. What we did was to say that if people are living with HIV, does not disqualify them from entering the temple or becoming a monk. That was very, very important, because they were beginning to feel threatened, as were other people, because of the fear method was used. So this was very important. And then training of military officers, military recruits, everything, every group. Also training company volunteers. Every company was asked to participate and train their own staff, so we provided training materials for them. And a very simple message to all the companies: that sick staff cannot work and dead customers don't buy. So you should be involved in protecting your customers and your staff. And this worked. And the same people in the villages who did family planning came to our rescue in the villages, plus the Ministry of Health, village health volunteer that was beyond our reach, joined in. They became the agents of change again. Then we went to the university and said, all of you, please come for training and go back to your old school and teach your younger brothers and sisters how to survive and what HIV was about, because it was getting serious. And so they went and did that. And in turn, the secondary school students taught the younger students in their own school. And they became very good safe-sex teachers. And then we introduced this game you can see outside there. It's an unsafe Russian roulette. You can land on any of the 36 diseases, sexually transmitted diseases, or safe in green. And you can see what it looks like. This was very, very effective. And we still have that today. And then if you land on a number that is on syphilis or anything else, you can see what it looks like. And maybe what we should be more interactive, get voices of people to say how they felt when they found out that they had some sexually transmitted diseases. And then this is very important. This is what we call our AIDS safety tips. Millions and billions were printed by the private sector. The government said, come on, we need you to help. The benefit will accrue to the private sector. So banks, insurance company, at the top on right is in Thai Avon. At the bottom right, blue is AIA, American International Insurance, other companies, and then banks, and we produce ourselves too. So this was given out to bank customers, to insurance companies, to people. And when you put your ATM card into the machine at the Krung Thai Bank, a message on HIV came up. So all these things really helped. And then training of student volunteers in many, many parts of the country, and youth volunteers. And then training of primary school students, because they knew where a brothel was. They knew, and they knew what happened in brothels. So they said, okay, you better learn about it. The next thing we got was to get in every village in a packet with condoms and AIDS safety tip information, that every young kid, you can see that they're primary school kids, went to every household in every village to give out this information. So it was a national program, and didn't have to pay for the kids, they loved it. And they gave out to every household. And that was the beginning of realizing that we may have a chance of fighting it. Then we introduced our Captain Condom, like Superman or Spider-Man today. He got a Harvard MBA, probably the best thing he's ever done with his MBA. And then we had introduced a Miss Condom pageant for those who were at the frontline troops who worked in the sex industry, to say, we want you to save your life, you're the frontline troops, so wear safety helmets. So this is the case. And then condoms were made available everywhere, even to tourists. Shops on the streets, gold shops, shopping centers, banks, trains, buses, bars, everywhere, weddings, but except funerals. We didn't give out at funerals. At toll booths. We got the cooperation of all the toll booths, the company, and so everyone getting on or off the toll booth got AIDS information and a condom. And they liked it. And at bus stops too. When a bus stops, you give out condoms. And if you can't give enough, you get on the bus and give it out until you finish and get off the next stop. And the buses joined in. Everybody joined in. That was how it worked. Not just the government, but everybody. So at the PTT gas station, you fill it up, you get a whole box of condom. And at McDonald's too, to go with your Big Mac. And of course, the condom is your wonderful friend. You can use it for decoration of your hair, or you put mobile telephones in during the rainy season. And of course, we had our Christmas tree made of condom, and our Santa condom. You walked around dressed in suit made of condoms. And we had a restaurant also called Cabbages and Condom. Then we got taxi drivers joined in, cassette tape. Somebody said, take me to Pat Pong, and he'll say, where are you from? He said, oh, I'm from Australia. So he puts it in English copy, and he talk about HIV, safe sex, and so on. And if the fellow says, still keep on going, many say turn back. And if they're still going, he said, I have condoms, so here. So he sold condoms in the taxis too. So everyone was involved. And so now we've come to the policemen. Police giving out traffic, condoms in traffic. We call this our Cops and Rubbers program. And Bangkok traffic, as you know, is pretty captive, so it's a good place to give out. And when the traffic is standstill. So this is what happened. Everybody joined in, the business community, NGOs, government, everybody. This was a major war that Thailand had to face. This is what happened, according to UNAIDS. 90% new infections declined. So new infections declined by 90%. Now the other one that's about to come up surprised me a lot. World Bank, by a lady by Martha Ainsworth, did a research piece and said that during that time 7.7 million people had been prevented from being infected and deaths. Imagine what would have happened had we listened to the government of the day. So please, take no as a question, not as an answer. If you're doing something that is straightforward, honest, no ulterior motive, go ahead. They won't punish you. They'll understand you one day. Just keep it up. Then the next one was to reduce poverty. We can't do it for everybody, so we went to the bottom end of the scale. And if we want to do it, they need to make more money. Who knows how to make money? Business community. Who knows how to take money? Government. So don't go to people who take money, go to people who make money. Go to the business community as what we call a village development partnership. So to get the poor out of poverty. It's a partnership between the company and the local community. So we call this a village development partnership, and provided the poor with business skills to earn business, access to credit, and empowerment. Because the only road out of poverty is through business enterprise, not through welfare. It's never worked anywhere in the world. So to get out of poverty is through business enterprise, not through welfare. So that was the approach. And again, the family planning volunteers came in and joined in and helped. They were the agent of change. They have proven their ability. They have proven their success to the people in the community. So this was very, very strong. Then the community empowerment, they had to come together and say they will join in, they will help. They came up with a development plan, the needs assessment, and so on. And any money that went in, it was not free. You had to plant trees. Every tree was worth 100 baht. So if you were to get 1 million, you have to plant 10,000 trees and take care over time. So nothing was free, because if free, that means it doesn't matter. Here, you are giving as much as the rich people. You are just as important. And here is what the village bank looks like. Down south, they went in town and saw a bank with grill, so they bought this iron grill to put it in, but the back was open, but it felt like a good bank. So they could borrow money. They had deposit and then borrow money. And so the whole idea was to empower the poor to become entrepreneurs and hopefully social entrepreneurs. So before training, before borrowing, you have to go through what we call our Barefoot MBA on many aspects. Very simple stuff, bookkeeping, training how to do business, in business, whatever it is. And these were some of the businesses that they used the money for, mostly for agriculture, flowers, weaving mats, food, ice cream. They call this Nike ice cream. Nice name, eh? Nike didn't mind. Tastes much better than shoes. And food down south. Crab processing with a freezer so they could keep their own crabs without being exploited by middlemen. And then some even started their water bottling plant. It all began with this as a social enterprise, as a fund, a bank in the village. This is how it happened. And it's sustainable, it's still going on today. And we also introduced the village youth government. We want to train people for the future. And so that they elected members aged 13 to 24 in their villages, 14 to 24, and to practice democracy, transparency, gender equality, and public service. Don't wait for the government to do it, you do it yourself. And so this is what it looked like. So they prepared project proposals, initiated business and ventures for youth, and coordinated health and education campaigns in the area of their village and around. And in fact, we have one of the students in those days who's now almost a teacher going to sit up there when we have a session. And this was also, instead of, if you give money in a scholarship, you stop, but they stop. So we said, we give you scholarship for 3 months only. You go to the market and find what you would like to do as a business after school for 2 hours. And these two girls in grade 7 and 8 decided on doing grilled sausages after school for 2 hours. That's the amount of time their friends used for playing games on their telephone. And they did it. What happened is that they earned 400 baht a day, and half was in cost and the other half was profit. So they earned 100 baht each in a month, 3,000 baht. So 5 times more than what they were getting as a scholarship. So this time they got business skills and access for the future as well as education. And then they had one time thought of leaving school, but we said, no, that's not a very good idea. They liked the idea of earning money. So instead they got their grandparents to do it during the day, and they did it in the afternoon. So the grandparents got extra money. So this taught us that you could do a lot with the elderly people. So the project simply empowers the villagers to help themselves and eradicate poverty. And now the final, I hope, will expand. We're turning a school from a school that all of us know into a lifelong learning center and a hub for social and economic advancement. We have schools around the world that are underutilized. Schools mostly have land underutilized, buildings underutilized, teachers underutilized, open for 200 days of the year, so much more. It is a diamond, but we're viewing it as a piece of glass. We have to do it and turn it into a diamond. So this is what we're trying to do. For the last 10 years, we call this a new dawn in rural Thai education. I won't go into the detail of the problem of Thai education. It will make you cry, but let's just go to what we're doing. It's about 4 hours from Bangkok, near the Cambodian border in Buriram province. And that's what the school looks like from the air, in a mango orchard. And this is where the students come from. 28 provinces, now from Laos, and we hope to get from Cambodia and Myanmar, our neighboring countries, and Malaysia. And we have regular Thais as well as Mon, Karen, and Hmong. Some are stateless, and some of them are here. We have a Karen and a Hmong student also here. And this is what we're trying to do. If you know Thailand well, you know many other countries. What we need are good citizens. And they can become smart citizens later, who are honest and who are willing to share. We do not teach kids in all the world to share when they're young. We must teach them how to share. So then disparities will probably disappear. Then you will not have two countries, you know, Thailand 1 and Thailand 2. Thailand 1 is full of opportunity, but Thailand 2 is denied all the opportunities. So we must teach all our kids in school to share and in families. They must also possess life skills and occupational skills, know how to manage, and don't give up. Be determined. Community development leaders and practice and promote gender equality, not just practice and promote. So this is the target of the school. Student fees are paid by the students as well as parents. It's a private school. By performing community service, taking out of our family planning days. That you had to, parents and students had to do each 400 hours of community service and each plant 400 trees. That's your school fees. Why should we get money from them? They're poor. They can't afford it. And even if they can afford it, why can't we do it in a different way? Train them to be good citizens also. And this is just some of the activities. They go to the villages and introduce the idea and bring adults out and other children to help clean the village or the temple or the school. And this is very important. We want managers, but we don't train them in school at all. So we get them to help run the school by what we call our student government. And this is our cabinet session, student cabinet, discussing what to do, how to do it. There are 30 of them, 5 from each grade. And they decide the future of the school. Any change, anything new, any purchase must go through them. And you'll see more. Examples, welcoming, briefing visitors, purchasing and audit. They do the school budget also, safety, environment, waste management, repairs and maintenance. And here's student briefing, Deputy Prime Minister when he came. And there's the Deputy Prime Minister, Dr. Yongyut, sitting and listening to the students. And then the students took him around the school and the team to show what the school was about. And this is done to all visitors. We get about 1,200 visitors in the afternoon after school. And the students do all this. So they learn how to meet, how to greet, how to talk, how to answer questions. And they come from many parts of the country, and several other countries have come. So this is part of the purchasing committee. At 4 a.m. they go to the market and check on the prices. And they do this once a week to make sure that they know the prices. And this is purchasing of, on the left is the projector for the schools. They do all the buying. Ice cream machine, vehicles. This was the vehicle given to a project by IKEA, and the students did all the work, going to Toyota, Nissan, Isuzu, checking on the price, after sales service, and asking to meet the chairman to get a special reduced price. If adults do it, you don't get the same. And so the audit committee, they check everything. And if you want to enter the school, this is what happens. Older students interview you, not teachers. And parents are also interviewed by the students. They get quite nervous. And if you're a teacher, you want to become a teacher at the school, the students also interview you. They also get quite nervous. They've never had it before. They've never been told in university this is what's going to face them. And these students are very, very good now. Because if you like your teacher, then you study better. And after interview, you have to show how to teach. If you can't teach well, why hire you? We say you can buy your own shoes and clothes and earrings. That's important. But why can't you buy one of the most, or choose one of the most important things in your life, your teacher? This must change. So I hope the world will begin to change. Let the students have a say in selecting and reviewing their teachers. And this is what we're trying to do. The world needs a lot of people with new ideas. Think outside the box, but not outside the law. And this is in front of the school. Why can the front of the school not be attractive? It can. So these are water jars made by students, painted. All the cars going by slow down and stop and take a look at the school. And even the coconuts are colorful. The pathways are also colorful. Why can't we make pathways colorful? Why just cement color? And also it's used as a sidewalk dictionary with words on the side. And on the other side, we're now beginning to put in the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals of the UN. So they walk and every day they see it both in Thai and in English. You can do that, and we're going to introduce it, the teaching into the school, excuse me. And this is just some of the words. But now, next time you go, you'll be able to learn about SDG as you walk along the road. Don't have to have a book. And every Friday they are asked to dress in their national costume wherever they come from. Karen, and then there's the Hmong, and these are the Mon and Karens. You can see the cheek also colored, just like what you see in Myanmar. They are born in Thailand. Their parents came over, but they don't have citizenship yet, and we're helping them to get citizenship. And so they can go to university. And of course, sex education is very important in our school. Nobody's shy of the condom. As you can see, the girls walking around with condoms, very, very happy. And also they can do one thing. They can polish their shoes with the condom. You see how much better? With the lubricant on the condom. So we have a message, don't leave home without it. If you wear leather shoes, take a condom with you because it'll make your shoes very shiny. Again, why should you be embarrassed? School is built of bamboo. Bamboo is very sustainable. It absorbs a lot of carbon dioxide, and we have a system of making them last about 70, 80 years. Walkways, raised. This is the bamboo geodesic dome. Most geodesic domes are made of steel, but constructed of steel. Ours is bamboo. This is the world's largest bamboo geodesic dome, and the architect came from Singapore, a good neighbor. And this is what it looks like from the outside. Inside, takes about 400 people, and now with the help of some private sector companies, we now have a sports field inside also. So students learn inside the school and outside the school, inside the classroom and outside of the classroom. So morning begins with meditation, 6:30, and then you have breakfast. You must thank the people who produce the food, such as this one, they thank the farmers for the rice, because it's a lot of hard work. You must appreciate it. And thank everybody who helped you make a better life. And then clean up. We have no workers to clean up. They clean up everything, including toilets. And then school begins. There are many types of classrooms. Of course, it's natural air conditioning from the breeze. So when in winter, when it's cold, we put down the blinds to keep out the wind. And learning in class as well as outside is how to make biodiesel. They get cooking oil, used cooking oil from the market. They make the biodiesel and they sell it. On the market, it's 24 baht per liter. Here they sell it for 18 bahts. They're cutting the customers, the competitors. And they do homework in groups of 5. Usually every school you do it individually, so they copy. Here there's no need to copy. You can learn from your friend. Teams of doctors, of architects, they all work as a team. Why not this? So again, it's just putting basic life into the school. And there must be question time. You must think ahead, one day per week. Each subject you have to ask questions of the teachers for half the period. And after the teacher gives you the answer, you go to Google to see how much more there is in the answer. And then this is a bit like Jeopardy, if you know Jeopardy. The teacher gives you the answer, and you must come up with the right question. For instance, the teacher might say 6, and you have to come up with the right questions such as, what is 3 plus 3, what is 3 times 2, what is 7 minus 1? And before long, you realize there must be tens and hundreds of questions to get one answer. And then this is training on business skills, because you don't just do business, you have to understand the cost and the profit margin and everything else. And we have people who are very good at business to teach them. And they also a group of 5 must teach teachers, because teachers don't know everything. So you must get together and see what interesting thing you can tell your teachers, teach your teachers. It can be something about geography, something about fun, about animals, anything you like. But you have to study it, and that makes you a better student because the teachers will ask you the questions. Again, this is just another way of learning. And another thing is very important. If you sit in an exam and you fail, or you're not happy with your mark, we give you a second chance. Everybody has a second chance in life. You draw something you don't like, you rub it out, redraw it. Why not this? Why just take one sitting? Why take one sitting? And soon we're going to have another set of exams where you can take the books in, just like you do it in real life. You want to look it up something? You look it up in the dictionary. Why not? Another set of exams. Education is not about seeing how much you remember. It's how to get the answers. So these are things we're adding in. And this is the other thing. Other schools should try this. You get 85%, you get 85 baht. You pay students in money as well as marks. So if you get 25%, you fail, you get 25 baht. Where else can you fail and get an award? The answer is very simple. Failure may be the beginning of success in the future. Failure is not the end. So forget about failure. Move ahead. And they must sit in a wheelchair, every student, for 1 day per month to learn about life of people in wheelchairs, and then to take a good look at what's happening in our country. And they will find people in wheelchairs can't get on trains, can't get on buses, can't get in taxis, they can't do the jobs that they would like to have. So we must do more. So they're now writing a project proposal to request second-hand wheelchairs from right around the world, and to give to other schools and do the same thing. And 1 day, maybe within a year after that, write a letter to every part of society to say, we must do more for people with disabilities. Students can do a lot more, not only in this, but in other aspects, including sex education, family planning, and discipline. We allow them to use the telephone for 1 hour per week if you're in grade 7 and 10, and you must write 3 letters. 1 to your friend, 1 to your parents, 1 to somebody important. And so, if you're in grade 10, grade 11 and 12, you can use the telephone at night. But grade 7 to 10, just 1 hour. And we do not eat on the day you use your telephone. Not for any religious reason, but we want them to learn about hunger. You cannot learn about hunger from a book or from a television program. You must learn from being hungry. And they come up and say, my goodness, we don't want any of our younger brothers and sisters in the villages ever to be hungry again because it hurts. This is a very good way of learning. So you don't learn everything from a book. And also music. We want them to, they do agriculture, and everyone has a ukulele. So they learn music as well, to let them to be creative. And all these come from disadvantaged families, and they are deserving kids. And so they make, these are the businesses. Ice cream does very well, and they give, must be social enterprise. They must give 30% of their profit to charity, and that's usually a scholarship for primary school kids outside. And then smoothie businesses, eggs. So this is from 2 to 4 they do this. They sell about 1,000 eggs a day. They also go to the market. Goat raising much cheaper than cattle. Making of soap from natural products to keep our water clean. And also candle business for sale, with incense as well. And making paper from vegetables with no chemicals. and now doing the tissue culture lab. From one little banana tree, you can make 5,000 in a year and a half. So they're learning how to do all of this as part of their science, rather than from a book. And now they're doing this, the tissue culture, cutting to small pieces and growing it in special food liquid. And this will grow into a real banana tree. And we keep them inside this first, before we're putting them in the soil. And they learn how to make water jars. I think it's the only school in Thailand that kids learn how to make water jars. They have to do the form first, cement form. Now putting the shapes together, and then putting mud on the outside, clay, and then 3 layers of cement and wire. And then you go inside and take the inside material out. The boys and girls both do it together, and we can put whatever brand you want. And then this is made by students and it's being sold to the villages and other schools. And if you want yours painted, the kids can do it for an extra charge. And after 4 o'clock, 2 to 4 is business. After 4 is sports, 1 hour, many sorts of sports. We have limited space for sports field. This is also exercise, both your arm and your leg. Make it more interesting. And we have a swimming pool given to us by a company, and we use it for other students too. 80% of kids in the Northeast cannot swim, and 4 drown every day, second highest rate of death amongst children. So we get we get students from the outside to come and learn. And then every Tuesday, our students go out to surrounding schools. Every Tuesday morning, they teach classes, English, science, you name it, and also dental health, and also family planning. We teach young kids, primary school kids, by our other students. And then in the afternoon, they help the agriculture in the school. We help to establish a farm in these schools. And now all these schools, we're beginning to add the SDGs, so they begin to learn. We ask them to select which one is their number 1 choice that they want to try to solve and keep on going. And holiday job training to get them skilled and earn some pocket money. Those who want to own a restaurant, we can take them to hotels, restaurants, Shell gas stations, Microsoft, pharmaceutical company, IKEA. And so we have students training, business skills in agriculture, and we also provide loans for parents to get out of poverty. Most schools put parents into poverty. We try to get them out of poverty. And so in our school, the land is very poor, so we use cement rings and make our own soil. The system is for little land, little water, little labor, very good for elderly people, retired people, and people with disabilities. So we're using small plots to maximize output. And we use these baskets that you can lift and move away from floods. These are PVC baskets. And laundry baskets for morning glory, where you just don't use any earth, just coconut fiber, and the roots go down and to the food. And instead of decoration with flowers, you can have this. 1 kilogram per basket. So everyone can do this at home now. Any type of vegetable you can do in baskets. And now we're using old bottles for growing a vertical garden. So you can grow a lot of vegetables on very small pieces of land. And so the harvest, it's all sold to the kitchen, and if we have anything left, we sold to the outside. They have their cornfields, all the vegetables, and of course we have a lot of bamboo, so bamboo shoots. And out of season, lime trees, during these months, March to May, very expensive. So we know how to make them produce at that time. We can manipulate them. And the wholesale price is 6 baht rather than half a baht. So the students make good money out of this. We want them to learn how to do business so that they can stay around home in the future. And these are the other stuff. They do the tomatoes, the melons on cement, and with good students who are artists draw the sign. This is for Shell. To mark their 124th anniversary, they get 20 baht per kilogram more. So this is, again, learning about marketing. And then they make the hydroponic vegetable stands from PVC pipe. Girls, boys make the same thing. Also bamboo. And now training people from the outside in many things they want. This one is growing vegetables in baskets. And those who are good help to expand to other people. And wheelchair from the classroom became wheelchair agriculture. So we've now become the training center for people in wheelchair who want to grow vegetables and earn income and stay at home. And so they come to our school, then we go to their school to help, assisted by the business community, and the Deputy Prime Minister has to also sit in a wheelchair and try to plant vegetables. And so we're helping other schools. We're doing about 50 a year with the help of the private sector. And so we call this our school-based integrated rural development. And I'll very quickly just run through the activities. Community empowerment and training of social enterprise farm. Every school will have a social enterprise. Loan fund for students and poor parents. And then aspects of health, water, sanitation, and environment. And this is the community empowerment together. And then we start putting in the farm. We do all the buying of this. So everybody comes in, the community members, and even on stone. This is in Krabi, on rocks. So you can grow vegetables on rocks if you put them in these containers. And art and agriculture can go together. So these are photos in the schools. They're on lime, hydroponics, their harvest. We do it in several parts of the country. And other schools now come to learn from these schools that we've helped. So it just keeps on working, expanding. And the student can borrow to do business. These are some of the businesses, mostly agriculture. Coconut cupcakes, tempura. And this is interesting. 7 grade 4 students borrowed 10,000 to raise chicken for eggs, and they have their own packaging. So they're learning how to do when they're at a young age. And so there are drinks in the shop, and now a lot of the produce is sold in the shops outside. So again, this is how a school can be a lifelong learning center and a hub for social and economic advancement. Parents can also borrow, these mostly for agriculture. And dental hygiene, which is a PVC pipe, we cut it in half so they become a nice tray for you. And we do it also for students with hearing impairment, again, all funded by the business community. And now on wheelchairs in a couple of schools in the north and northeast, so they can go home later on and earn income from vegetable growing without having to migrate anywhere. And this is a girl in a tent that grows umbrella that grows mushroom, which will earn a net profit of 30,000 baht a year. And that, I'm sorry I've taken a bit of your time, but just to show how it went from family planning to other things, and family planning has never left our work. It's just done in special, different way. It's, I guess, like milk. It's in your soup, it's in your sweets, it's in your main course. So family planning has been the beginning of my professional life, and I'm very grateful for the chance that I've had to work in this area. And once again, thank you for allowing me the honor to be with you today, and again for this very kind recognition. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure. We are a little bit behind schedule, but we would like to give the audience a chance to ask some questions before Yuriko comes back. So if there are any questions, we can take a couple for Kun Mechai. Anyone at all? We've got microphones that we can send your way.
Or advice?
Or advice. Yes.
So we know that Thailand is now trying to share your experience in development with other developing nations everywhere in the world. You mentioned your neighboring countries, but so we know that Thailand now is trying to share your development experience with other developing countries in the world. It's been the case in Africa or in this region. This sort of bamboo school, is there also a plan or some interest in the government to try to expand that good policy elsewhere in the world?
There are two ways of looking at it. They like the school, so they put me onto the National Education Commission to try and make some changes. The government is in a changing mood, right? They say, what you're doing is good, find your own money. So that's the one. So I'm trying to go to the private sector to have them to do that. But several countries have come, but basically in every country you have schools, and you can turn the school gradually from a regular school for young kids into a lifelong learning center and to a hub for economic and social advancement. I think this is a goal of the future. There is no institution in any country that I know of that has more loyalty from the community than the school. It's a legal entity. Nobody's jealous of the school. You have children, you've got parents, you've got adults, you've got grandparents. Great group of people with tremendous loyalty towards the school. So we must help to turn the school from a piece of glass into a piece of diamond. And I think this is what should be done, and we'd be very happy to work with us. What we're trying to do is now we're trying to do something with the help of the private sector. Just one school in Myanmar, one school in Laos, one school in Cambodia. And if that works well, I'm sure it will, well, we want to invite them over first to see. And if they would like it, then we'll work with them to try it in their own. And maybe then some of the donor communities will help of these schools. And I think they will like it. Some have come over already. In fact, the furthest one that we've agreed with the Mechai Foundation to do one in the Philippines, to do the same thing. So if we can get assistance to help other countries, it will be wonderful. And the ones who go to help to start the farm are our students. They've gone to about 100 schools to help establish the farm, the social enterprise in the schools. They even help to do farms in the agricultural department of universities, because university students who are studying agriculture, they know paper agriculture, not green agriculture. So our kids do it, and the universities are very surprised that their kids can't do this, because they didn't learn when they were in secondary school. So one of the most important things that I think we need to do is teach kids how to do business, because 70%, probably other countries too, in Thailand, 70% of those who finish all levels of education, 70% do not have employers. Yet we do not teach them any business skills while they're in school. This is a good time to do it, so they can help themselves and stay. We have 6 million kids in Thailand, which I call temporary orphans. They're living with grandparents because their parents have to leave the village to earn an income in town. We have to make sure our jobs in the future, our education, other systems, enable people to stay home more. At the moment we are destroying the village. It's like plucking all the feathers out of the chicken. We have a naked chicken, half-naked chicken, rather than a real chicken with feathers. These are things we have to do to address, and part of the SDG is to try and allow people to stay in their community as much as possible. So there are many ways of doing it. I think that this would be very good, and of course, family planning is part of life. And I think, to me, life begins with family planning. I did that with Life magazine one day, and they said they were going to sue me. Anything else? Yes, over there.
Sarapop from Chulalongkorn University. So I'd like to thank you for not just for the inspiring talk, but all the great development work that you and your colleague have done. So I'm curious and love to get your thought and comment on this. Now the population issue swing from like too many children, too many kids, and poverty into this new era of low fertility, and we don't gonna have enough human capital, right? And might not be have enough people to get into this labor market. So what is your thought on this low fertility issue, and what would be the best way to handle it?
The answer is very, very simple. Allow those who are working today at all ages to improve their productivity. So if each one produces more, you won't need as many people to work. And you've got machinery coming in, robots coming in. But the first one is expand, improve the productivity of every group, in particular those that are so-called elderly citizens. They can do a lot more. And I said, I am 17 years beyond retirement age. I'm still working and enjoying it. So try to do the same thing for more people and people with disabilities. And then finally, you have all sorts of people waiting to become Thai citizens already. Very simple. Just give them Thai citizenship.
So just to make sure that I understand this correctly, so you mean that the number might not be as important as quality?
Absolutely. I think that's very, very true. Yes, quality is very, very important. And we can definitely improve our quality in every area of endeavor.
Thank you.
Any more? And you said 2, right? Okay. Anyway, afterwards I'll be happy to do anything. So please, thank you.
Thank you. Very good.
No. I put it here. Yeah?
So now we're going to have a quick scene change. If you'll just bear with us for a second, we're going to put some chairs up here, and we're going to have the second part, a little bit shorter, of this World Population Day celebration. We have a very special panel with us, 3 people who've actually, 4 actually, 3 of them from outside Thailand, and I'm going to introduce them while the sofas and the chairs are being put up there. So if you would stand as I call your names and make your way to the stage. From the Philippines, we've got from the Philippines Human Rights Commission, Twyla Rubin. She is a lawyer and she works on gender and sexual and reproductive health issues, and we'll be speaking about her work. So Twyla, please come up. Thank you. We have another lawyer by training as well who's also working on similar issues, but from a more regional perspective. We've got Pooja Badrinath. She's from India, but she's based with Arrow, which is a very well-known women's rights NGO, which is in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So Pooja, please come up. And then from Ho Chi Minh City, but not from there originally, we've got Dr. Julian Lair. And she is a researcher on family planning investment, which is something we've talked about a little bit earlier this morning. And she will be speaking about some very interesting case studies on how we can convince governments to invest more in family planning. And last but not least, we've got Ying from Thailand, who is associated with Kun Mechai's work. She's from Buriram province, and she is studying to be a teacher. She's a youth activist. She speaks only in Thai, and we speak, at least I speak only in, of course, English. And so we've got headsets for all of you to put on when she will be answering the questions that I will pose to her. And I'll be going up there in just a second myself. So we will be joined by my colleague Kai from the Thailand country office, and she will help Kun Ying clarify certain questions if she hasn't caught them. So Kai, thanks a lot. So this panel is actually called, somewhat provocatively, Family Planning at a Crossroads. And we want to explain what that means. While there have been many, many gains made in family planning and wider health services, maternal health, child health, we still have huge challenges and huge gaps that have to be met, not only in this part of the world, but actually the whole world over. And I'd like to start with the Philippines context. And as we know, there are many challenges in the Philippines on several fronts, as there are, of course, in several countries. And Twyla has been working very extensively on what is a landmark law that actually our country office also helped shepherd. It's the reproductive health law. And as you know, the Philippines is a heavily Catholic country, and there is strong opposition to contraception and a person's right to choose. And even so, this law has been passed some time ago, but it hasn't yet been fully implemented. And I'd like Twyla to walk us through, in brief, the journey of this law and how the Human Rights Commission is now helping to push it through and to work with multiple stakeholders to actually get this law implemented. Twyla.
Thank you. Earlier, as Mechai was speaking about what the efforts that they are undertaking, it reminded me of one incident wherein our Minister of Health said that she will be distributing condoms in schools. And it created a lot of uproar in our country. Even the politicians, the religious leaders were very much strongly opposed to it. And it also showed the difference in terms of context in the Philippines, wherein we have a very strong religious influence, the Catholic Church, and of course, we have conservative politicians. Although we passed the law in 2012, 2 months after its passage, it was already challenged constitutionally. So a case was filed in the Supreme Court. And in 2014, while the Supreme Court upheld the constitutionality of the law, some key provisions were still voided. One of the provisions that was voided was, first, the penalty provided for public officials who refused to implement the law. Another was on the provision. Another provision that was voided was a provision allowing minors who are pregnant or had miscarriage access to contraceptives. Another was a provision allowing married women in accessing reproductive health operations without the consent of their husbands. So that has been a challenge. While it was upheld, the implementation continued. The Ministry of Health tried to implement the law as much as it can with different constraints. But in 2015, another challenge was brought on to the Supreme Court. Again, there was a temporary restraining order against the law on certain distribution of certain contraceptives. These were the subdermal implants. And the position of the religious groups is that it's an abortifacient, a term that they would continuously use, opposing the distribution of artificial contraceptives. It has become a challenge, and in many organizations, CSOs campaigned for the lifting of the TRO. Recently, the Supreme Court upheld the TRO, and it ordered that our Food and Drug Authority certify all the contraceptives coming in the country and allow oppositions to present evidence that it's an abortifacient or not. And it's going to be a challenge because right now, if without the certification, 90% of the contraceptives in the Philippines would have expired, and there would be a contraceptive stuck out in the country. And that's a challenge, and as a national human rights institution, we conducted a national inquiry on RH, and it surfaced uneven implementation of the law, continued barriers in access for women facing multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination, women with disabilities, LGBTs, indigenous women, women in geographically isolated, disadvantaged areas. And while we are still facing this, we also leverage on our strengths, and the strength of the Philippines is basically in its strong women's movement. We have strong reproductive health advocates, and we continue to engage with our government. In fact, our Ministry of Health is very much for the implementation of the RH law. It is just constrained aligned as well with the policies and the decisions taken by the Supreme Court. So right now we are closely monitoring the certification process, and we are also overseeing that those that are available are also implemented at the village and the local government level. So that's just a brief overview.
Thanks a lot. Pooja, moving to you and the more regional picture, I mean, the Philippines is by no means the only environment which is constrained or challenged. And would it be right to say that we're at a point where it might be tempting to call the glass half empty, perhaps, when it comes to several other countries in this part of the world?
Thank you, Roy. We could also probably take it as glass half full rather than half empty, just in terms of that there is hope, and we would personally take that kind of opinion. I think just to go from the specific case of Philippines to the regional sort of picture, and I think I'm going to take some of the other terms that is used that within ARROW, a regional organization we use, which is called the Universal Access, and that's how we have been looking at specifically universal access to sexual and reproductive health and rights, and how that's essential for achievement of all kinds of human rights. And I'm going to use the definition that we've used here, and I'm going to look at my phone for that. Apologies. But just to kind of talk about how the trends across the region is, and more specifically, the absence of geographic, financial, organizational, socio-cultural, and gender-based barriers to care. And I'm going to use those definitions to kind of highlight the regional picture, which at times when we do speak about sexual and reproductive health and rights, we kind of don't look at each and every single aspect, including socio-cultural and gender-based. And I think that for us is the issue across the region. And if I'm speaking too fast, just somebody raise a hand or something, I'll slow down. Thank you. And I think this leads me to the two issues that I think is a problem in the region, which is poverty and gender-based discrimination and inequality in terms of accessing sexual and reproductive health. And I mean, we know the numbers of the numbers of people within the region who are in poverty, and out of that, a higher number are women and children, especially more marginalized women and children. And that is a huge exacerbating factor on why we do not get the kind of care that women do need, and we work from a women's rights perspective. And also at the same time, I think gender inequalities and discrimination is so entrenched both in our laws and policies. I mean, Twyla just spoke about parental consent, spousal consent laws. We have parental consent laws to access contraception, emergency contraception, abortion. We have almost marital rape, which is not criminalized and is legal across books in almost all of the countries. And we still have many harmful practices, including child marriage, forced genital mutilation. I mean, we all know all of this. And I think this kind of for us from our work, it kind of shows how women are seen and how little power they have over their own bodies, over their own life. So in many ways, this access to sexual and reproductive health and rights is that ability as well, and including the practical consequences, but the ability to access that. And if we don't give women, even legally, at a programmatic level, that ability to choose for themselves, I think it's a problem. I'll just take a little bit more time. As I said, the GLAF it's not all bad, because one of the indicators that we've looked at very clearly is maternal mortality, and we are doing better. The region is doing better compared to what we were earlier, and it is a target. But I think one of the things that we do see across the region in almost all countries, and ARROW generally works mostly in the Asia regions with our partners in national countries, is that there is a tendency to look at it at times in a more quantitative numbers way as to how to reduce number, and not look at it from an overall perspective of, what are the care aspects that needs to be done in policy and programs. And I think that is an issue. And thirdly, young people, we see across the region, teenage pregnancies are on the rise. And this is not of one country, this is almost all the countries. And that's because young people and sexual and reproductive health and rights is seen as almost ignored, and a lot of stigma attached to even talking about contraception, accessing contraception, getting comprehensive sexuality education to understand what are these key how to have safe sex, where to get these information, what are the services, where is the referrals. I think these are some of the things. I do not want to take too much time of my other panelists. Thank you.
Sure, we'll, I think we'll come back to all of that. But I'd like to now turn to Kun Ying, and from the Thai perspective, and specifically a non-Bangkok perspective, because I think we just heard from Kun Mechai that there is in Thailand 1 and there is Thailand 2. And I presume Buriram and many other parts of the country have some catching up to do on certain indicators and certain rights. And from your perspective as a young person, in the work that you do, what are you seeing in terms of young persons' access to services, contraception, information, going beyond the Bamboo School, which is a very special institution, but there are not that many Bamboo schools across the country. So how do young people in Thailand, what are their challenges and what is the reality for them today, and how can that be addressed going forward?
ค่ะขอบคุณค่ะชื่อหญิงนะคะก็เป็นนักศึกษาทุนของผอ.มีชัยวีระไวทยะนะคะแล้วก็เคยเป็นประธานเครือข่ายอบม.เยาวชนตำบลโคกกลางในพื้นที่ของจังหวัดบุรีรัมย์ค่ะซึ่งได้ทำกิจกรรมเกี่ยวกับเรื่องเอดส์และเพศศึกษานะคะการที่เป็นเยาวชนเนี่ยก็คือว่าได้ทำกิจกรรมมานะคะก็เห็นปัญหาก็คือว่าเยาวชนเนี่ยไม่มีความรู้ในเรื่องของสิทธิและหน้าที่แล้วก็การได้รับความรู้ในเรื่องของสุขอนามัยทางเพศหรือว่าอนามัยการเจริญพันธุ์นะคะทีนี้พอพวกเราทำกิจกรรมค่ะในส่วนของเครือข่ายอบม.เยาวชนตำบลโคกกลางซึ่งอยู่ในพื้นที่ของจังหวัดบุรีรัมย์นี่นะคะก็ได้จัดกิจกรรมเป็นโครงการเยาวชนยุคใหม่ใส่ใจปัญหาเอดส์ในชุมชนโดยการให้ความรู้เรื่องเอดส์และเพศศึกษานะคะซึ่งพอให้ความรู้ไปแล้วเนี่ยความท้าทายก็คือว่าเยาวชนเนี่ยเขาไม่รู้ว่าเขามีสิทธิ์ที่จะได้รับข้อมูลในเรื่องของความรู้ในเรื่องของอนามัยการเจริญพันธุ์ทำให้เกิดปัญหาการตั้งครรภ์ไม่พร้อมในวัยรุ่นนะคะซึ่งสิ่งที่พวกเราคิดว่ามันท้าทายแล้วก็สามารถที่จะช่วยแก้ปัญหาหรือว่าลดปัญหาดังกล่าวได้นะคะก็คือให้วัยรุ่นเนี่ยมีรู้สิทธิ์ตัวเองแล้วก็สามารถที่จะเข้าถึงข้อมูลในเรื่องของสุขอนามัยทางเพศสุขภาวะทางเพศแล้วก็อนามัยการเจริญพันธุ์ซึ่งในพื้นที่ของที่ดิฉันอาศัยอยู่เนี่ยนะคะก็เป็นกลุ่มอบม.เยาวชนที่ได้ทำกิจกรรมร่วมกับโรงเรียนมีชัยพัฒนาหรือว่ามีชัยแบมบูสคูลมาตลอดนะคะก็คือพยายามที่จะให้ความรู้เรื่องอนามัยการเจริญพันธุ์ในเรื่องของทั้งการใช้ถุงยางอนามัยนะคะการป้องกันการตั้งครรภ์ไม่พร้อมนะคะซึ่งจะเกิดขึ้นในรูปแบบของเยาวชนส่งต่อเยาวชนก็คือในรูปแบบของการเป็นพี่สอนน้องนะคะซึ่งจะช่วยแก้ไขปัญหาดังกล่าวได้แม้แต่ตัวดิฉันเองเนี่ยจะเกิดมาในยุคที่มีความเชื่อดั้งเดิมว่าเรื่องเพศเนี่ยเป็นเรื่องที่น่ากลัวจะถูกผู้ใหญ่ขู่ให้กลัวว่าเรื่องเพศเป็นสิ่งไม่ดีนะคะเหมือนกับถูกสอนว่าเรื่องเพศเนี่ยเปรียบเสมือนกับมีดอย่าไปจับมีดนะเดี๋ยวมีดจะบาดมือแต่ผู้ปกครองหรือว่าผู้ใหญ่ในสมัยก่อนเนี่ยไม่เคยบอกเลยว่าเราจะมีวิธีการใช้มีดให้ปลอดภัยได้อย่างไรเรื่องเพศศึกษาก็เช่นเดียวกันพวกที่ผ่านมาเนี่ยจะถูกขู่ให้กลัวว่าเราไม่ควรที่จะมีเพศสัมพันธ์ในช่วงที่ระยะเวลาที่ยังไม่พร้อมนะแต่ว่าเราไม่เคยถูกสอนหรือว่าถูกเพิ่มทักษะเลยว่าเราจะมีวิธีการจัดการตนเองยังไงให้มีความรู้ในเรื่องอนามัยการเจริญพันธุ์ในเรื่องของการตั้งครรภ์ไม่พร้อมในวัยรุ่นนะคะ
Thank you. Is there anyone out there who wanted a headset and didn't get one and would like to have a very short summary of what was just said? Raise your hand. Okay. Kun Kai, can you just quickly summarize in a few sentences?
Right.
Apologies. Thank
right.
you.
For every Thai, we have like a full name and short name. So her short name is Kun Ying, Nang Ying. Nang Ying is like receiving scholarship from Mechai Patana Foundation, and she's like one of the she's studying in university now, teaching Thai language. So if anyone would like to learn Thai from her, then you can. But then like she is from Viravaidya province, which is in the northeast of Thailand, and she works with the youth group in her hometown and giving the training on sexual and reproductive health, making awareness of the youth in Viravaidya to know about HIV and AIDS. And from that, she found that a lot of youth, they realize that they lack of knowledge of the sexual and reproductive health and rights. And through this, Ying thinks like it's really crucial that we have to give like the rights and the knowledge of sexual and reproductive health to young people. And she also like work with the group of Mechai Patana students from Mechai Patana school, and it's like a way of sister, brothers teaching younger sister and brothers, and it's a good way of teaching in terms of sexual and reproductive health. And herself, even if like she's still young, she was born with the culture of that sex is like a scary thing, and adults in Thai country always say like, sex is very dangerous. It's like she is fear of using knife but don't know how to use knife. So it's better, for her opinion, working in this area, saying that it's better for adults to teach young people to know how to use knife or to handle sex.
Thank you so much for that, Kun Kai. We were going to show a short film on our family planning investment program in Cambodia, but we are running a little bit behind schedule, so we will skip the film. But I will summarize in saying that the film was about the Cambodian government being convinced to take charge of its family planning program more in terms of funding, resources, policies, with the, of course, with the help of our country office and other partners. But Jillian, who's over here from the Nossel Center, the Nossel Institute, which is with the University of Melbourne, has been working with us on some very interesting case studies from Cambodia, Laos, and Timor-Leste on how do you actually convince governments in developing countries that have been used to getting financial support from the UN and from other countries like yourselves over here, how do you get them to take ownership of their programs? What are the complexities involved?
Okay, thank you. The UNFPA was interested in Cambodia for a number of reasons, one of which was that the government now finances commodities, only commodities, but UNFPA actually supports Cambodia to the highest level. It's slated for the highest level of support, but the government still takes on financing of commodities. So how did this happen? And that was one of the case studies that we conducted late last year. Now, one of the things that happened was that actually UNFPA was not actually financing commodities at the time. The German Development Bank was doing that, but they gave a clear message that they would withdraw from this in 2012, and there was no going back. So there is a quite diverse private sector in Cambodia for family planning and contraceptive services, and that whole community realized there was going to be a problem with supply, and they coalesced around this issue of the need to guarantee contraceptive commodities after 2012. So it's back to a key message from our distinguished speaker of unity. The family planning stakeholders from the Ministry of Health, from domestic NGOs and from the international community, they came together and they said we need to do something. And they formed a commodity security working group. And during that meeting, another donor stepped forward and said that they would fill in the breach for a specific period of time, and only on the condition that the government started to establish a budget line. That was Australian Aid. And Australian Aid did that because it aligned with their existing maternal health strategy. So then the donors, this family planning stakeholder grouping started to advocate consistently over a 3-year period to the government that they needed to establish this line. So it's back to this unity. There was unity in the understanding the need to do this and in the constant advocacy efforts that followed. UNFPA and AUSAID then looked at the evidence. They generated an evidence base, not on the health side, but on the investment side, that this was a financial investment that the government could make that would gain for them in the future. And they mentored Ministry of Health officials to make those arguments to the Ministry of Finance, because it's the Ministry of Finance that makes all the decisions, not necessarily the Ministry of Health. That was 2 very important things. Another thing is the way in which this advocacy effort occurred. It was very much in the Cambodian style of you build trustworthy relationships, you get to know each other, you do it low-key, you don't go out and blast the media with it. And that builds trust, not only between the government and the donor, but between the national staff that was working in the international organizations and the government. And there is also the issue that, that contraceptives are reasonably affordable. And Cambodia has been raising its economic game. It's moving in now into lower middle income status, according to the World Bank. So there was also a general consensus that it was affordable, that the government could actually do this. It wasn't out of reach. And I think basic to this is that there was kind of a diversity in the family planning sector already. It wasn't a completely government-dominated sector.
So when we spoke briefly yesterday, you also spoke about Laos and Timor-Leste. Are all these countries very different when it comes to family planning investments, or is there some commonality to the approach?
Well, Timor and Laos have a commonality in that UNFPA guarantees commodities at this time. Now, both these countries are actually on the UNFPA orange scale. That means that UNFPA technically should not be financing commodities. It should be withdrawing from service delivery and focusing more on advocacy, technical assistance, knowledge management. But there is no backup in the sense that Cambodia had a backup from the private sector, especially in Laos, because the private sector is much more constrained in Laos. There are international NGOs and other donors in Timor that could possibly fill that gap, but it's much more restricted than the Cambodian case.
Twyla, you shared with me yesterday when we had a dinner, actually, so I could just get to know them a little bit better, some really interesting and some pretty horrible stories about how in the effort to ensure that women give birth in a health facility, especially in indigenous population areas, they're actually penalized if they don't. Can you share these sorts of things with us?
Okay. So this came about from our National Inquiry on Reproductive Health. It's a program funded also by UNFPA, wherein we assessed how the RH law, the reproductive health law, is being implemented. And one of the things that we found out in that inquiry was that in many indigenous communities and in many local areas, they interpreted the campaign of the Ministry of Health for facility-based delivery into passing a local ordinance that would penalize women who would give birth outside of facility, and those traditional home birth attendants would be facilitating those kinds of births. And as a national human rights institution, what we did was to say that we think that there's also a need to respect the cultural rights of the indigenous communities, and it's important to build structures nearer to these communities, making health facilities accessible. And in fact, there are good practices as well. In many communities with indigenous communities, there are those that make culturally sensitive interventions and would allow traditional health birth attendants to attend and also to be together with the health attendants from the local health centers. And at the same time, there are also local government units which give incentives for those who resort to facility-based deliveries. So those were some of the things that we found out. And also to include, one of the things that we found out in that national inquiry was that there's uneven implementation of the law at the local level. One mayor declared its city as a pro-life city, and as a result of that declaration, all the artificial contraceptives were pulled out from the rural health units of that city, resulting to lack of access of family planning commodities, and it lasted for almost 2 years. And of course, it resulted in increased unwanted pregnancies in that areas. So those are continuing challenges for the Philippines.
So,
Roy, can I say
yes,
something
yeah,
about that?
sure.
I just want to second Twyla's point about facilities close to the community, because the Nossal Institute premises that the health system is where health service delivery can best happen, and it's strengthening the health system that really works. But what tends to happen is that health centres, who are actually the closest to the people or health posts, are seriously underinvested in, and it's really, that's where the investment needs to go. It needs to go into the community, and especially in remote rural areas. You know, we talk about a country like Laos, which is very significantly mountainous, very significantly rural, that they are the last mile, they are providing the service, and it tends to be that the private sector is much reduced or non-existent in rural remote areas. So we would say that strengthening the health system and investing in facilities close to the community would actually cut out a number of issues that women are facing in the Asia-Pacific at this time.
Something else I'd like to ask, which is linked but also separate, is the issue of working with faith. Because we hear in countries like the Philippines, Timor-Leste, now Indonesia as well, increasingly, that there is opposition from the faith communities and the faith-based leadership to things like family planning, women's choice. But when we spoke yesterday, you also shared some pretty amazing breakthroughs that you had both made in the, with faith-based efforts. So would either of you like to share how do you actually work with faith on issues that are deemed to be controversial or against scripture, at least in some interpretations?
I'll go first and then. In the case of the Philippines, we actually have an organization. It's called Catholics for RH. And then we have an organization for going for natural family planning methods. And so it goes to show that there's a group of people, organizations, religious organizations that are actually for family planning and reproductive health. And there is also the reality that there's also an extreme conservative group that would always oppose any move that you're going to push. So what we do is that we leverage with the alliances that we have with the Catholics for RH. We make them speak in interfaith conferences wherein they would be able to share how they are able to convince even those who are faithful in going for reproductive health. And also, hand in hand with it is a promotion for women's equality and gender equality, women's human rights, because you have to balance it out. And in the Philippines, it's constitutionally provided that there should be a separation between church and state. And most of the time, it's very difficult even to implement that constitutional mandate. So we leverage with our allies, we leverage with the groups that we're working with, and we work with them in order to convince, to show them the lives of women on the ground and how they are really affected by the absence of these family planning commodities, and it makes it real for them when they see the lives of women that are affected by their resistance, and they are convinced that it's important as well.
Thank you. While we personally do not work with faith-based organizations, we have partners who have feminist organizations. I think that's there across all our countries, who do work with faith and who do come up with interpretations of all kinds of faith, which do look at human rights framework and what religion or interpretations of religion are. And I think that's very essential. And I mean, from our experience, it's very important to work with the women's rights movement on the ground to understand how things are. And in most organizations that do work at the community level, because they are at the forefront of what's happening, especially when you have backlash and the resistance. And a lot of the times it has been held true that a sort of a detailed and fact-based education, explanation about why these things are important generally always helps. But at the time, it is essential to reach all those people and work with the organizations. And I think there will always be a sort of a diverse opinion on these things, but at the context of the country that you are in and what kind of and how it works, I'd like to actually point out what you said. They did the advocacy the way Cambodia understands advocacy, and I think that's very, very important to understand that each of our countries where we are from have their own ways of working and have their own ways of understanding religion, faith, but one of the principles that works across our constitution is, I mean, that's how Arrow and Arrow's partners work within country, is to find that human rights thread within their own faith and tell how it impacts the women on the ground, you know, how harmful it can be, and that has been the way to push for things.
In Mindanao, that's the southern part of the Philippines, in the Muslim areas, there's actually a fatwa issued by the religious leaders saying that it's not against the teachings of Islam to teach family planning. And that's one good practice we're in. It can actually merge family planning practices, reproductive health into the religious faith. And it was basically brought upon by advocates, women's human rights advocates who are Muslim, and also advocated to their religious leaders for the passage of that very important fatwa.
We have a question from the Facebook audience. A person from Nepal is asking this question for Ying. And the question is, as young people, what mechanisms can we use so that young people living with disabilities are not excluded from accessing youth-friendly health services and peer-to-peer education?
ค่ะในคำถามแรกนะคะก็จะมีกลไกยังไงให้ผู้พิการเนี่ยได้เข้ามามีส่วนร่วมนะคะในเรื่องของเรียนรู้เกี่ยวกับสุขอนามัยทางเพศนะคะหรือว่าอนามัยการเจริญพันธุ์เนี่ยหนูโชคดีที่ได้มาเป็นนักศึกษาทุนของโรงเรียนมีชัยพัฒนาทำให้ได้เห็นว่าเมื่อสักครู่ที่ผอ.มีชัยวีระไวทยะค่ะได้นำเสนอไปเกี่ยวกับโครงการเกษตรวีลแชร์จึงเห็นช่องทางหนึ่งที่เราสามารถเชื่อมโยงโดยการที่ให้เด็กหรือว่าเยาวชนที่มีความพิการหรือว่าเป็นบุคคลพิเศษเนี่ยได้รับความรู้ในขณะที่ทำเกษตรไปด้วยแล้วก็จะเห็นว่าเวลาที่บางภาพเนี่ยการทำเกษตรวีลแชร์เนี่ยจะมีน้องๆนักเรียนโรงเรียนมีชัยพัฒนาเป็นผู้ดูแลนะคะซึ่งนักเรียนโรงเรียนมีชัยพัฒนาเนี่ยก็จะได้รับความรู้ในเรื่องของอนามัยการเจริญพันธุ์โดยมีวิทยากรไปถ่ายทอดความรู้แล้วก็ได้รับการฝึกฝนให้เป็นผู้ถ่ายทอดความรู้ต่อค่ะก็จะสามารถใช้เวลาในขณะที่เราลงพื้นที่เกษตรไปด้วยแล้วก็พูดคุยแลกเปลี่ยนเป็นการค่อยๆซึมซับให้เขามีเริ่มเข้ามามีส่วนร่วมแล้วก็รับข้อมูลความรู้ในเรื่องของอนามัยการเจริญพันธุ์โดยจุดเล็กๆสิ่งที่โรงเรียนมีชัยพัฒนาหรือว่ามีชัยแบมบูสคูลเนี่ยเป็นหัวใจของโรงเรียนก็คือการที่ทำเกษตรเคยได้ยินว่าเกษตรแก้จนแต่เราอาจจะเอาจุดเล็กๆตรงนั้นนะคะมาช่วยแก้ไขปัญหาในเรื่องของความรู้ในเรื่องของอนามัยการเจริญพันธุ์ได้เช่นเดียวกันนะคะและในส่วนที่สองก็คือจะให้เขาเข้ามามีส่วนร่วมในอย่างไรในการที่จะเป็นในระบบของเพื่อนสอนเพื่อนหรือว่าพี่สอนน้องก็ต้องดูที่ความพิเศษของเขาว่าเขาต้องได้รับความช่วยเหลือด้านไหนนะคะซึ่งที่น้องๆที่โรงเรียนมีชัยพัฒนาเนี่ยก็จะมีบางส่วนที่สามารถทำกิจกรรมร่วมกับผู้ที่มีความพิเศษทางร่างกายไม่ว่าจะเป็นในด้านหูหรือว่าตาค่ะซึ่งเขาก็จะสามารถมีกระบวนการเช่นเราอาจจะในส่วนของผู้ที่พิการทางสายตาหรือว่ามีความพิเศษทางสายตาเนี่ยอาจจะต้องใช้ในส่วนของหนังสือเสียงนะคะที่มีน้องๆบางส่วนเนี่ยเคยได้ไปร่วมกิจกรรมค่ะขอบคุณค่ะ
Thank you so much. So we are nearing the end of the panel, but I'd like to ask one final question of all the panelists. I'm the only man on the podium, so I don't know what it is to be a woman, obviously. But from a woman's perspective, and speaking from a personal perspective, from your own lives or your own experiences or those of others that you know, your friends, your own family members, what needs to change to make a difference in the way that women are empowered in terms of access to family planning and sexual and reproductive health? You're from very different societies, very different backgrounds, but you're all women. So from your personal perspective, what is maybe the one thing you'd like to see prioritized in terms of what governments and society need to do? I know it's a bit of a tough question, but...
I work for the Governance, Health Systems and Financing Unit, so you can guess what I'm going to say, which I just think financial or economic empowerment is crucial. The Timor case study showed a correlation between increased economic empowerment of female-headed households or any women in the household with much more ability to make decisions about ideal family size, about access to contraceptives. So I would say it's the same for the youth group. The youth tend to get paid less for the same work. Some women in Timor aren't even getting paid for doing work. This whole issue of financial disempowerment is really problematic. I would say the one thing that could really change it would be equal pay for equal work.
Thank you. I'm trying not to. I'm in my head. I'm trying not to say change patriarchy because that just seems But I think at a very root of it, from where I come from India, and from where I think it's. For me, at the root of it is how women are perceived in society, and it is the unequal status of women on every aspect. And yes, I know while it sounds really, really big and it sounds like it's something that's unachievable, I think at some level it's also, at a very personal level, since you did ask, I think it's also about how we can work individually within and a lot of us know it starts from our own families trying to negotiate those spaces. And I think giving that ability to every young girl that we meet or older, or to have the ability to negotiate within your own personal spaces, and I think that goes really far in changing people at the end of the day, the mindset. Thanks.
Actually, my answer would be the same with her. And I was thinking on how to address, actually, we're still stuck with the separation of church and state, and how in the Philippines, the religious influences, which is also part of how it has affected access of many women to many services, and how it has relegated women's position in society and maintained such position in a much lower position compared with men, and that has affected the enjoyment of many human rights of women. So I think it's time for the government of the Philippines to rethink this, how the church influences its policies, even if it says it's not being influenced, but it is being influenced. We have politicians who are supposed to be duty-bearer, but are articulating faith and then incorporating it on how policy should be addressed. And as coming from a national human rights institution, and of course monitoring the government's compliance with its treaty obligations, including CEDAW, we'd always say that if the government, we'd like to see a government that would really try to implement its obligations under CEDAW, and to look into the substantial equality of women and how it is being enjoyed, but especially by women who are facing multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination. It's important for us to see these women, these individual women, especially those who are invisible. First, we have to make them visible. We have to hear them out, and the government has to hear them out as well. And then we begin to address it, empowering one woman at a time, and of course emphasize the duty bearer part. It's the government's obligation, and it includes cutting across the promotion, protection, fulfillment of women's human rights. Now, it's big, but really that's our level. That's how we try to engage with the government as a national human rights institution.
Could I just say I would completely, totally agree with you on that, and just that.
ค่ะในส่วนของหนูในฐานะที่เป็นเยาวชนนะคะแล้วก็เป็นผู้หญิงที่มีโอกาสได้ทำกิจกรรมในชุมชนในฐานะที่เป็นผู้หญิงซึ่งย้อนกลับไปเมื่อตอนที่หนูอยู่ม.2 อะค่ะหนูก็เป็นเด็กผู้หญิงที่กล้าที่จะตัดสินใจมาสมัครลงรับเลือกตั้งเป็นอบม.เยาวชนซึ่งก็คือคล้ายๆกับเป็นการจำลองให้กับเยาวชนเนี่ยได้เข้ามาบริหารชุมชนของตนเองภายใต้โครงการพัฒนาหมู่บ้านซึ่งโดยผอ.มีชัย วีระไวทยะค่ะซึ่งณตอนนั้นเนี่ยหนูยังไม่เข้าใจว่าทำไมในกลุ่มของอบม.เยาวชนเนี่ยถึงต้องมีผู้ชายกับผู้หญิงในสัดส่วนที่เท่ากันนะคะจนเวลาผ่านไปกลุ่มอบม.เยาวชนเนี่ยมีทั้งหมด8คนแต่4คนต้องเป็นชายและ4คนต้องเป็นหญิงก็พอทำกิจกรรมร่วมกันไปก็เลยเข้าใจว่าอ๋อแท้ที่จริงแล้วทุกคนนะคะมีสิทธิที่จะเข้าใจแล้วก็มีสิทธิที่จะทำกิจกรรมเพื่อพัฒนาชุมชนอย่างเท่าเทียมกันทั้งชายและหญิงแล้วในขณะเดียวกันพอหนูเข้าใจ ทราบที่มาว่าทำไมเราถึงต้องมีผู้ชาย4 คนแล้วก็ผู้หญิง4 คนหนูไม่ได้เจอแค่ในชุมชนของหนูเองพอหนูได้ก้าวเข้าไปที่โรงเรียนมีชัยพัฒนาซึ่งเป็นเส้นทางสายใหม่ของการศึกษาในชนบทเนี่ยหนูก็ได้ไปสัมผัสกับคณะมนตรีซึ่งเป็นสภานักเรียนที่นักเรียนเนี่ยเข้ามาบริหารจัดการโรงเรียนโดยมีคุณครูเป็นพี่เลี้ยงแต่ว่าเด็กและเยาวชนเนี่ยเด็กนักเรียนเนี่ยจะเป็นผู้ดำเนินกิจกรรมก็มีสัดส่วนของผู้หญิงที่เข้ามาทำกิจกรรมหรือว่ามีเข้ามาบริหารโรงเรียนนะคะในสัดส่วนที่มากขึ้นตรงนี้หนูเลยคิดว่าอยากให้รัฐบาลนะคะได้เปิดโอกาสให้กับเด็กผู้หญิงให้ผู้หญิงที่ไม่ใช่ว่าต้องเป็นวัยทำงานเท่านั้นถึงจะมีสิทธิ์มีเสียงแต่อยากให้ฟังเสียงเด็กเยาวชนที่เป็นผู้หญิงให้ผู้หญิงกล้าที่จะเข้ามามีบทบาทแล้วก็ฟังเขามากขึ้นแล้วก็ให้ใจเขามากขึ้นว่าเราเชื่อมั่นว่าผู้หญิงสามารถทำกิจกรรมได้สามารถที่จะมีสิทธิ์ในการวางแผนครอบครัวได้ด้วยตนเองซึ่งเพราะว่าเราก็ทราบกันดีว่าผู้ชายก็ไม่สามารถท้องได้ก็สุดท้ายแล้วเวลาการวางแผนเนี่ยก็ควรที่จะให้ผู้หญิงเนี่ยได้มีสิทธิ์เลือกด้วยตนเองได้บ้างนะคะอาจจะให้โอกาสเขามีทางเลือกมากขึ้นนะคะแล้วก็ในส่วนของกิจกรรมที่เราได้ทำร่วมกันเนี่ยหนูก็ได้เห็นว่าผู้หญิงก็มีพลังไม่น้อยกว่าผู้ชายเช่นเดียวกันค่ะขอบคุณค่ะ
Thank you very much. So with that, we've come to the end of the panel, and before we close the event, we have a special guest from the Thai government who will give the closing remarks. We've got Dr. Bunyarit Sukrat, who is the Deputy Director of Reproductive Health at the Department of Health with the Ministry of Health of Thailand. Sir.
คุณโยริโกะยาสุกาวะผู้อำนวยการกองทุนประชากรแห่งสหประชาชาติสำนักงานประจำภูมิภาคเอเชียและแปซิฟิกอาจารย์มีชัยวีระไวทยะผู้อำนวยการสมาคมพัฒนาประชากรและชุมชนแขกผู้มีเกียรติและผู้เข้าร่วมประชุมทุกท่านกับผมรู้สึกเป็นเกียรติและมีความยินดีที่ได้มาร่วมประชุมและกล่าวปิดการประชุมเนื่องในโอกาสวันประชากรโลกประจำปีนี้ประเทศไทยประสบความสำเร็จในการก้าวเข้าสู่ประเทศที่มีรายได้ปานกลางระดับสูงซึ่งนับตั้งแต่การประกาศนโยบายประชากรของประเทศเมื่อวันที่ 17 มีนาคม 2513 ประเทศไทยประสบความสำเร็จอย่างดียิ่งในงานวางแผนครอบครัวควบคู่ไปกับการพัฒนาประชากรหญิงวัยเจริญพันธุ์มีจำนวนบุตรโดยเฉลี่ยลดลงจาก 5-6 คนเมื่อ 40 ปีที่แล้วเหลือเพียง 1-2 คนหรือคิดเป็นอัตราเจริญพันธุ์รวม 1.6 คนในปัจจุบันจึงเป็นเรื่องที่น่ายินดีอย่างยิ่งที่ประเทศไทยประสบความสำเร็จเป็นอย่างดีสามารถเป็นตัวอย่างให้กับนานาประเทศด้านการวางแผนครอบครัวในช่วง10 กว่าปีที่ผ่านมาอย่างไรก็ตามเช่นเดียวกับประเทศอื่นๆในหลายภูมิภาคทั่วโลกประเทศไทยกำลังเผชิญหน้ากับข้อท้าทายใหม่ๆทางด้านประชากรนั่นคืออัตราการเกิดที่ลดลงและการก้าวเข้าสู่สังคมผู้สูงอายุอย่างรวดเร็วเป็นโอกาสใหม่ของประเทศที่จะก้าวเข้าสู่สังคมสูงอายุอย่างมีความหมายเปิดโอกาสให้ทุกคนมีส่วนร่วมในการพัฒนาไม่ว่าจะเป็นภาครัฐเอกชนหรือภาคประชาสังคมการสร้างแนวนโยบายเพื่อสร้างสภาพแวดล้อมที่เอื้อและสนับสนุนการตัดสินใจมีบุตรมีนโยบายที่ครอบคลุมความหลากหลายเปิดทางเลือกในการตัดสินใจที่จะมีบุตรของบุคคลเช่นการคำนึงถึงปัญหาที่เกิดขึ้นจริงจากความตั้งครรภ์ความพร้อมในการสร้างครอบครัวการดูแลเด็กเล็กและการสร้างความสมดุลระหว่างชีวิตครอบครัวและชีวิตการทำงานซึ่งเป็นแนวทางที่สอดคล้องกับนโยบายอนามัยการเจริญพันธุ์แห่งชาติฉบับที่ 2ที่สนับสนุนให้การเกิดทุกรายมีการวางแผนมีความพร้อมตั้งแต่ก่อนตั้งครรภ์และได้รับความช่วยเหลือในการมีบุตรส่งเสริมให้ลูกเกิดรอดแม่ปลอดภัยได้รับการดูแลหลังคลอดที่ดีเด็กได้รับการเลี้ยงดูในสิ่งแวดล้อมที่เอื้อต่อการเจริญเติบโตและมีพัฒนาการสมวัยกรมอนามัยกระทรวงสาธารณสุขเล็งเห็นความสำคัญต่อการดำเนินงานตามแนวทางการประชุมระหว่างประเทศเรื่องประชากรและการพัฒนาหรือ ICPD The International Conference in Population and Development และเรื่องสิทธิอนามัยการเจริญพันธุ์ซึ่งเป็นหนึ่งในเป้าหมายการพัฒนาที่ยั่งยืนที่มุ่งเน้นให้สตรีวัยเจริญพันธุ์ที่มีความต้องการเรื่องการวางแผนครอบครัวพอใจกับการคุมกำเนิดสมัยใหม่การดำเนินงานให้บรรลุเป้าหมายดังกล่าวต้องอาศัยความร่วมมือจากทุกภาคส่วนในสังคมทั้งภาครัฐภาคเอกชนและภาคประชาสังคม ในการสนับสนุนและสร้างสภาพแวดล้อมที่เอื้อให้ประชากรวัยเจริญพันธุ์มีสิทธิในการตัดสินใจด้านการมีบุตรในทุกมิติในฐานะกรมอนามัยเป็นหน่วยงานหลักในการขับเคลื่อนนโยบายการส่งเสริมการเกิดและการเจริญเติบโตอย่างมีคุณภาพมีความยินดีที่จะร่วมมือและเชิญทุกท่านเข้ามาเป็นภาคีในการขับเคลื่อนนโยบายดังกล่าวสุดท้ายนี้กับผมขอกราบขอบพระคุณทุกท่านที่มาเข้าร่วมประชุมและให้ข้อคิดเห็นที่เป็นประโยชน์และขอปิดประชุมขอบคุณครับ
So that concludes World Population Day celebration. Thank you all very much. A big hand for our panelists, please. And thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all.